Jenny's Love Adventures. Alex. That evening, she arrived in a small town on the outskirts of the city, where a river skirted an abandoned factory. She was drawn to the rusty pipes that stuck out into the sky like skeletons of a forgotten past. The sun was already setting, casting a crimson light over everything, and Jenny was crouching down to adjust her lens when she heard the sound of tires on gravel. She didn't pay attention. The road wasn't far, and people sometimes stopped to take in the view. But when a car door slammed and someone coughed loudly, she looked up. He stood before her, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends. He was wearing a dark blue uniform, with shiny buttons and a badge that sparkled in the changing light of the setting sun. He was young, 30 years old, no more. His face was stern, but there was a subtle smile at the corners of his lips, as if he didn't know something she didn't. "Ma'am, you shouldn't be here," he said in a low voice that echoed in her chest. "This is a private area." Jenny straightened up, pushing her blonde hair out of her face, and looked at him defiantly. "It's an art, not a crime." He came closer, and she could smell him fresh cologne with a hint of sandalwood. Her pulse quickened, and she gripped the camera tighter. He looked at her hands, then at the abandoned factory behind her. "Art, you say?" he asked, smiling at the edge of his lips. She showed him the painting, a rusty pipe against a crimson sky. He leaned in and his breath touched her neck. Jenny felt a warmth spread through her body and could barely contain her shiver. "I'm Alex," he said, holding out his hand. "And you are?" "Jenny," she answered, and their fingers lingered on each other. His palm was warm, strong, and this warmth awakened something long forgotten in her. The next day he found her near the old church. Out of uniform, wearing jeans and a grey t-shirt, he looked even more attractive. He was holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need a break," he said, handing her one of them. She took the coffee, smiling. "Are you always this attentive?" "Only to those who fascinate me," he replied, his voice husky. They started talking, but the tension between them grew. That night at a bar playing jazz music, his knee touched her leg under the table. Jenny felt goosebumps run across her skin and did not move away. The light from the lamps reflected in their glasses, and his fingers slid over her wrist, leaving a stinging mark. Walking her to the car, he stopped, looking into her eyes. She touched his cheek, and his skin was hot, with a slight stubble. He leaned down and kissed her, sharply, greedily, with a taste of wine. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her so close that she could feel every muscle in his body. Her fingers tangled in his hair, and the kiss became deeper, almost painful. Her back hit the car, but she clung to him tighter, shivering from the fire that had flared up inside her. That night they ended up in her hotel room. The door slammed shut and he pushed her against the wall, his lips finding her neck and his hands slipping under her blouse. Jenny gasped as his fingers squeezed her skin, rough but gentle. She shrugged off his jacket, unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his chest, firm, slightly covered with dark hair. Her fingernails left marks on his back as he lifted her, carrying her to the bed. Their movements were chaotic, hungry. He pulled her jeans down along with her underwear, and his lips trailed over her thighs, leaving hot marks. Jenny arched her back as his tongue touched her most sensitive spot, and her moan filled the room. She clutched the sheets, feeling a wave of pleasure wash over her, and he didn't stop, his hands holding her hips tightly. "Alex," she whispered, and he sat up, eyes blazing. She unbuckled his belt and soon felt him hard inside her. Their bodies moved in unison, intertwining in a wild rhythm. His breath burned her ear, and her nails dug into his shoulders as a wave of pleasure washed over her again and again. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of passion. One night he pulled her into his patrol car while he was on duty. By the light of a street lamp, in the shade of the trees, he unbuttoned her blouse, exposing her breasts, and his lips fell greedily to them. Jenny sat on his lap, feeling his hands squeezing her hips and the car swaying slightly with their movements. The glass fogged up as she arched her back and he entered her, whispering her name in a husky voice. Another day, they found themselves on the bank of the river. The sun was setting, and he pushed her down on the grass, ripping off her light dress. His tongue circled her belly button, going lower, and Jenny screamed in pleasure as he pushed her to the limit. Then she flipped him over onto his back, mounted him, and let her blonde hair spill over her shoulders as she moved, feeling him moan beneath her, his hands clutching her buttocks. One morning she was taking pictures of him, naked to the waist, with traces of her lipstick on his chest. He grabbed her wrists, threw her down on the bed, and took her slowly, deeply, kissing every inch of her neck. Her legs wrapped around his waist, and his fingers caressed her breasts, making her shiver with every touch. One day they got stuck in the rain, hiding in an old abandoned house. Wet and cold, they took off their clothes to keep warm. He pressed her against the wooden wall, his hands sliding over her damp skin and his lips biting her shoulder. The rain pounded on the roof, drowning out their moans, and her nails scratched the wall as a wave of pleasure tore her apart. He loved her breasts small but sensitive, and spent hours caressing them with his lips and hands until she begged him not to stop. She adored his back, strong and muscular, and often bit his shoulders, leaving marks that he would hide under his uniform. One night, he tied her up with a scarf, pinning her to the headboard, and pushed her to the limit, playing with her until she screamed in pleasure. The next time, she took revenge by slowly tracing his body with her tongue, stopping where he reacted most strongly and making him beg. One day, Jenny and Alex drove to the countryside and he showed her an old water tower. Up there, overlooking the forest, the wind buzzed in her ears as he unzipped her jeans, lowered them to her ankles, and took her, holding her by the hips. Her cries faded into space and his rhythm became faster and faster until they fell to the floor, sweaty and happy. But passion could not obscure reality. They knew it was temporary. One night, lying in his bed, sweaty and exhausted, he ran his finger over her collarbone. "You're leaving soon, aren't you?" he asked, his voice trembling. She nodded, kissing his palm. "But I won't forget this. You." He pulled her to him, and they made love again slowly, tenderly, as if trying to absorb each other. His hands caressed her hips, her lips touched his neck, and when they reached their peak, their eyes locked, frank, full of pain and love. He smiled, sad but sincere. "Me too, Jenny. You're like that charge. Beautiful in places I didn't expect." Alex pulled her into his arms, and they made love again slowly, tenderly, as if trying to consume each other. His hands caressed her hips, her lips touched his neck, and when they reached their peak, their eyes locked, frank, full of pain and love. They said goodbye at dawn. She got into the car, taking one last look at his silhouette in the doorway. The road stretched out before her like a new canvas, and Jenny knew that one day she might take a picture of something that would remind her of him: his hands, his voice, his warmth. Alex remained standing, watching her car disappear over the horizon. In his pocket, he clutched a small photograph, the one she had left him. It was him, disheveled, smiling, alive. And on the back was her handwriting: "Look for beauty, Alex." Their romance lasted only 2 weeks, but for Jenny it was a flash that lit up her life brighter than any sun. And for him, it was a moment that would forever remain in his heart, like a photograph that does not fade with time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. I would appreciate a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.